Hi, I'm Dr. Maggie Perry with the Tell Me What You're Proud of podcast. In this podcast mini-series, we're discussing the core principles for overcoming anxiety and OCD. Today, we're discussing how to avoid avoidances. Your response to an anxiety state depends on your interpretation of the meaning of that state. The meaning you give it, the meaning that you give an anxiety state ranges from danger on one side to opportunity on the other. People who believe anxiety equals danger avoid internal and external situations that make them anxious. This is the primary misinterpretation that you're making if you have an anxiety disorder. It's true that the fear response, including sensations, thoughts, and an urge to problem solve or avoid, is triggered when there is a perceived threat, but the presence of the fear response does not equate to danger. What's more, if through learned behavior, you start believing that the fear response itself is dangerous, you will avoid more and more until your world is very small. For example, if you fear that your sensations will lead to a panic attack, you could avoid anything internally or externally that might lead to a panic attack. Or if you fear having certain thoughts, you will avoid internal and external situations that might trigger those thoughts or perform physical or mental compulsions to make those thoughts go away when they inevitably occur. In both cases, you are misinterpreting the fear response as equivalent to danger. The more you avoid, the more often they will occur. People who believe anxiety is uncomfortable but not dangerous pursue internal and external situations that make them anxious and then attempt to do things to cope with anxiety. Western society encourages us to think this way. It's a slightly better position than equating anxiety with danger, but the problem with this position is that the attitude still lacks acceptance of whatever thought or feeling is occurring. As long as you feel like you have to work to manage what you experience, you'll risk getting burnt out by the effort of staying in control. For long term well being, it's best to learn to open up to whatever thoughts or feelings occur without believing that those thoughts or feelings need to be managed. People who believe that anxiety equals opportunity pursue internal and external situations that make them anxious on purpose and then interpret the feeling as excitement. The most helpful attitude towards anxiety is one where it is interpreted as normal, healthy, and an indication that the person is engaging in something challenging and uncertain. Professional athletes, musicians, and performers all feel the same physiology as the anxious person when they are about to perform. They are able to channel their anxiety into high performance because they accept and get distance from their self doubt and use the physical sensations to urge them towards behavior that is effective in that moment. Even the anxiety associated with an unwanted intrusive thought occurring in OCD can be reinterpreted as an opportunity for curiosity towards your mind and how it functions. It can deepen your compassion for yourself and others. This attitude about any form of anxiety is available to everyone and is learnable. We use the word experiential avoidance rather than simply avoidance to remind ourselves of how we avoid both ourselves and the world around us. Situational avoidance is usually easy to identify. Also, many anxiety sufferers don't avoid situations. Still, anxiety is always maintained by avoidance. We all avoid thoughts, feelings, sensations, memories, and urges with varying degrees of intensity and rigidity. Any good discussion of how to avoid those avoidances should start with action. Tell me what you want to move towards, and I can help you stop moving away. By making commitments to behavior, you take the philosophical stance that you can change. You believe that attempting to change in an intentional way is a worthy goal. The commitments you make are process commitments, not outcome commitments. You commit to studying, not acing a test. You commit to showing up to work, not performing perfectly at work. You commit to initiating a conversation, not having the best conversation of your life. In some ways, it's common sense to commit to a process, not an outcome. You can't control outcomes, you can control your process. And yet, you may make outcome goals that constantly feel elusive to you. To achieve a sense of efficacy and mastery, commit to processes that lead you towards your goals and then relax into those processes. So, in this case, your process would be to learn the subtle and not so subtle ways that you avoid, and then work on doing the smallest next step towards towards approaching those things. So then, to what process should you commit to? I love David Brooks' definition of commitment. He says, making a commitment simply means falling in love with something and then building a structured behavior around it that will carry you when your love falters. Let's invite anxiety to guide us towards surrender and to teach us how to create structure around this process-based goal. If your goal is to cultivate a more effective relationship with your anxiety, your process could include any behavior that gives you the opportunity to practice going towards and accepting that anxiety.